call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1, 225 years of service. Sheen Barron has a piece out of Youngstown explaining how the First Presbyterian Church in Youngstown is celebrating its 225th anniversary. That is about the lifespan of the entire country, folks. Story number 2, moratoriums are back in the headline. Moratoriums. Bob Copeland has a report in what looks like a crackdown by Girard's mayor, Mark Zuppo, who says he is concerned with the number of dollar stores and tattoo parlors in the city, according to the report. Now, the report goes on to explain how he plans to place a moratorium on the number of both the dollar stores and the tattoo parlors. Youngstown has made recent headlines also because, well, if you remember the past, because they plan to place moratoriums in their city as well. Now, Zuppo plans to meet with Youngstown Mayor Jamel Tito Brown and Niles Mayor as well. The mysterious push to crack down on dollar stores in a bad economy is what got the story in, especially when people need businesses and are looking for cheap stuff, folks. This story is still developing. Story number 3, 11.5 million in scholarships. Dan Pompley has a report published September 6th in the Mediator explaining how 11.5 million in scholarships have been awarded to YSU students. The article is filled with testimonies of students grateful for what seems to be like a needed boost. Story number 4, 2.2 million in grants. $2.2 million in federal grants will help to enable a flight school and aviation center in Vienna. This has made headlines. Now, this is a report by David Skolnick that was published September 11th. Now, according to the report, construction is set to start as soon as next year. The report goes on to say that the center is required to create or retain at least 300 jobs over the next 9 years, according to the grant. Story number 5, Boardman targeting properties. Boardman is targeting properties. Boardman has been in a number of headlines, the township and Boardman period, when it comes to zoning and property concerns. Now, the most recent is a report by Sheen Barron out of the Vindicator because township officials have passed a resolution to declare a dilapidated apartment building as a public nuisance. Now, the article talks about how a multiplex apartment building at 1893 Oles Avenue caught the attention of township trustees due to its deplorable conditions. Now, they're saying that holes were reported in the roof. Much of the drywall has been deteriorated. Electrical outlets and other elements have been exposed to water. Fire risks were reported in the report, and even sporadic running water. Folks, this story adds to a growing number of news stories fanning the flames when it comes to rundown properties and surrounding communities. Story number 6, why the Realty Tower story will stay in the headlines. David Skolnick has a report published September 7th about the cost for emergency work done by Pro Quality Demolition after the May 28th gas explosion at the Realty Tower. Now, the Pro Quality invoice was submitted July 3rd to the city, and with I guess they had an August 3rd due date. Now, this is probably for well over $200,000. Now, the article is with some very unsettling vibes, claiming that lawsuits are now being filed. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made in this week, folks. Yes, I do upload the show to the website after the airing. Sometimes the show, when I upload it, people always say, well, bro, don't you worry about the views. I really don't care about the views. The main thing is keeping people informed. It's just, I just upload it to the site just so it's there, just in case people want to check. If they want to go back into the time capsule and see what stories were in the news. And on top of that, it's simple and sweet, folks. Story number 7, the tax concerns. Ed Ryan has a report published September 6 out of Youngstown explaining how State Rep Laura McNally, that's District 50, the 59th District, Democrat 59th District, I believe, of Youngstown, will be joining with the Mahoning County Commissioners to discuss property taxes. Now, local levies have raised concerns for property owners, causing concerns about people being priced out of their homes. Folks, this story is staying alive and has stayed in top headlines. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made in this week: facing all adversity. Even when the pathway seems clear, there may be some stumbles, but I'm still giving you the top 8, baby. Rain, sleet, or snow, trials, tribulation, but I'm still here dressed up in my suit and tie for the greater good of the public. All from contributions and my own little bit of money to keep you informed. That's why it's important. It is important. Story number 8. The hospital fight drags on. PA, Pennsylvania, is set to commit $4.5 million to keep Sharon Regional Hospital open through the end of November. This story made it in because the reality of what Stewart Health Care is going through is starting to spark major concerns about how the hospital has ended up in the bankruptcy lines. Now, the story highlights a growing concern about what is taking place in the medical market. Rite Aid has had to file for bankruptcy. That's a local business as well. Protection causing store closures. And now there is more bad medical news as patients swarm the market to adjust. So trying to figure out, not even just patients, but people are trying to figure out how to adapt to these new changes. You have to go to places like Walgreens or other pharmacies. Now, the bankruptcy of Stewart Health is being felt across the local region also because, you have jobs, you have people who are concerned about their jobs. If this hospital closes, where will they go? Where will they relocate? Patients, people who have been don't have or close by. So, folks, this story is staying alive and it is still developing because this is a really real fight in finances and how these hospitals will stay open. Well, Stewart Health will stay open even if they can, even with the bankruptcy, folks. That's why story made to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that I made in this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, we just had the presidential debate, and strange thoughts were going through my mind when I was watching the debate. And, you don't want to think about certain things. And I started watching it. Well, I watched the whole thing and listened to the testimonies. after the debate, and people were talking about how they were concerned about real things, real issues. And when I was watching it, for some odd reason, I don't know why, I just like, why am I thinking about porn? Sitting there like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be, the human mind is strange, but after about the second half of the debate, seeing Kamala and Donald Trump go at it, for some odd reason, I started thinking about porn. I know this may sound crazy, but that's how bad this debate was. I'm sitting up there, I'm like, oh my God. And you don't want to think exotic or anything. You want to be serious, and the world is falling apart. And I'm like, oh my God, is that the devil? Is the devil trying to tell me to watch porn while I'm watching the debate? It was pretty wild. People, that's how this whole situation has been. They talk about Haitians eating cats and dogs, and Kamala's firing at Trump, and the world is literally falling apart, and the devil is telling me to watch porn while I'm watching the debate. I said the world is nasty. The mind is a nasty thing. I'm thinking to myself, like, this is serious, devil. What do you want? This is serious. Whoever's talking to me. Should I call my psychologist or somebody? But that's what's happening. All this stuff is going on. And your body is trying to get you to do things to make yourself feel better. I mean, you feel defeated watching these debates. You don't know which candidate you want to vote for, and they're arguing and talking about issues, and you're low, down and out, feeling conflicted, lonely, and here comes Satan telling you to watch porn during the debate. It's crazy how the mind works. That's probably why people are losing their minds. That's crazy. And that's my story. But the debate, I watched it. Most of the stories this week will be about the debate. But, everybody's thinking about something. Some people are thinking about smoking cigarettes, getting drunk, doing drugs. And here comes the devil in my ear. I said, Brian, why don't you do something nasty? Do something evil. Everybody else is doing it. Like, no. I might have to run for president one day. Let's waste no time, folks. Why is the devil whispering in everybody's ear? Why is the devil whispering in Kamala's Trump's ear? Could that be? Maybe that's probably why the debate was so terrible. I blame it on the devil. I turned on the Sweat Hotel. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Cutting and chopping to pay up. Even insurance, folks. People are cutting and chopping. MoneyWise has a report explaining how many Florida homeowners are self-insuring amid surging costs. The report goes on to explain why homeowners are choosing to be self-insured. The average annual premium for insurance in Florida is $5,531 for a $300,000 home. Now, the national average is $2,270. Now, housing was a central talking point in the debate, asking the question of how will the government be able to subsidize building low-income housing when the high-income housing market is showing cracks. Folks, if people are choosing to ditch their insurance in the retirement state, which is Florida, the new question is, what would happen for people on a smaller budget? Story number 2. Why the migration stories are staying in top headlines. Folks, yes, we did hear that people were eating cats and dogs. Folks, countries have borders. These are the borders that serve as a first line of defense, a defense system to protect the core of any nation. During the presidential debate, former President Trump mention the border quite often. Now, the reality is that because of global problems, wars, food shortages, and political strife, the border is the government's first line of defense to stop the core from being attacked. That's the core of the nation from being attacked. Now, infiltration could be what has the former president stressing this issue, but the data before the debate in a report by USA Today shows that illegal crossings at the southern border have been declining significantly in the recent months. They're saying that the number is as high as 40%, a 40% decline. This issue was repeated several times by the former president, leaving the question of Trump's intelligence and does he know something that many Americans don't know when it comes to the border. The question now is, if illegal immigration is down, who already got in the country and how will they be handled if caught? Story number 3, China export news. Another key issue mentioned in the debate was China and how, but there's some exporting news coming out. Business Insider claims that China's exports have slashed prices to push more overseas sales. The report goes on to explain how China's exports surged 8.7% in August, hitting a 2-year high of nearly $309 billion. The data mentioned in the report is that the Chinese exporters are slashing prices to boost shipments overseas. Now, it appears that China is doing this to stay competitive. Trump mentioned his tariff war as a cash plus for America, leaving the question of, did this cause China to release a deadly virus or did it just happen by mistake? So we did hear this in the debate where Trump mentioned that he put tariffs on China, leaving the question of, is that why maybe China released the virus, if you could prove it? Or did the virus just come out of nowhere? Folks, there is mystery surrounding this story. There were some key talking points from each candidate, leaving the question of if COVID was strategic due to Trump's pressure to get the world to pay up, or did it just happen? Story number 4, the small business story. Harris mentioned her small business plan for startups, which seemed very petty, seeing the state that many business owners are in at the moment, thus making Trump to make the claim of, if you had 4 years to do this, why hasn't it been done? Now, Reuters claims that U.S. small business confidence fell in August. The National Federation of Independent Business, that's the NFIB, said on Tuesday that the small business optimism index dropped 2.5 points to 91.2 last month. This is all while some of America's historical retail chains, hospitals, and pharmacy chains are in the bankruptcy lines and closing stores. Now, how or what impact this will have on the small business sector remains a mystery, but at the moment, people are suffering and businesses are suffering, even small business owners. And the government is already leaking cash. So you have to ask yourself is, how can government fix businesses? Even when they had the COVID crisis, they gave businesses loans and some people cheated. They were not even in business. So there's a lot happening, folks. So how can the government aid small businesses, and can Harris's plan really work? And why would she compare certain things, and why would Trump and her exchange things about sexual deviant nature? And why am I watching the debate thinking about porn? It lets you know where a lot of our heads are at in this debate and where a lot of Americans could be drifting off towards. We are drifting into the abyss of insanity, folks. Well, folks, there are top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back to the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. In the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Tune in to Method Ace YouTube channel to check out the top interviews that made it throughout the years and months. Visit method88.com. Check out all the community interviews if you want to check it out. Method88.com. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, you wouldn't believe it, but a long time ago, when I first started doing radio and getting into politics, I actually went to a Tea Party rally. And this was back when people were talking. It was even worse back. Well, I can't say it's got better, but they were talking about racial stuff in politics. So, I went to a Tea Party rally. I stopped in. I didn't see anything about race. I just saw people concerned about their country. And I saw a guy lash out on a politician at the time. He was coming and he was talking about things. And this was my first experience. But I got to see what it's like when you venture into politics and why things get so wild. Because no matter what a politician does or says, they're going to get criticized and ridiculed. And I give some of these people credit. Politics is a dirty game. You have to see people die. You have to get shouted at. But you got to keep the ball rolling. Keep the ball rolling. And it's not very sympathetic. You can't smile much. You can't joke much. You can't be yourself sometimes. And everything you do, most of the stuff you do, is never enough. So I decided to go to a Tea Party rally. And what I learned is that when you attend political meetings, things change. So when I went to this Tea Party rally, I went to my buddy's gym, African American. He was trying to own the gym. And so I went in his gym and I got talked about, belittled. And I thought about the type of person I am. Here I am. I'm a human being. And that's what happens when you get involved with politics. Things change. People look at you differently. You may not be accepted by your wife, your friends, your girl, or your people, your homeboys, everybody, your colleagues. And you may get rejected. So after watching the debate, I knew that when I stepped outside, everybody was going to be talking about it. And that's what it was happening. That debate has changed the course of history. And if there will be another debate is questionable, because I don't know if a lot of people can make it through another debate. Because everybody keeps saying the same things. It's like Groundhog Day. Folks, we're headed into a place where enlightenment is running wild. Nothing makes sense anymore. And the devil is constantly telling me to watch porn. Whew. Whew. God bless America. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number 5. The drive to pay the bills is causing a lot of cord cutting. CNBC has an interesting report on how young adults are opting out of parenthood and money. And they're saying that money is the major reason why why people are just not deciding not to have kids. Money, they need money. That means that the majority of young America does not see themselves don't see themselves getting married and having kids anymore because of the high cost to live. Story number 6: why Harris's tax plan has gained Wall Street's attention. Harris's capital gains plan did not come up much in the debate in what appears to be her plan to tax the rich. Now, she and Trump did elaborate on it a little at the beginning of the debate, but nothing was revealed when discussing the numbers. Now, Reuters has a piece explaining how Wall Street worries that Harris's tax plan would hurt U.S. corporate profits. Now, the key is to describe what qualifies as capital gains. So here's a description. Now, according to SCHWAB.com, anything you sell as an investment, anything that you sell as an investment for more than what you bought it for, you potentially create a taxable capital gains, according to Harris's plan and all this stuff. Now, that means that almost any investment that is sold at a profit, such as stocks, bonds, real estate, precious metals, options contracts, or even cryptocurrency will be taxed at 28%. Now, that would cause a huge problem for investors who are already shifting in an uncertain market. Now, this story is gaining steam, and even the talk about such a tax has already affected the market. So people are starting to shift their money. She's talking about taxing, we better move this money around. Now, Business Insider has a report by Mark Cuban explaining how unrealized capital gains tax would kill the stock market. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week to keep you informed. That's it. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it crack-a-lacking. Story number 7, the hiring question. The job market was rarely mentioned in the debate. CNN has a report claiming that U.S. employers have a good reason not to hire more workers, at least at the present point, especially when people are talking about taxing you. The report goes on to explain how the U.S. labor market is cooling. This has everything to do with economics and the strain on stretching the dollar. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made in this week for you. Keep you informed in times of tough. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Ask not what Harris can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Ask not what Trump can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And what you can do is stay informed. Story number 8, wages, shutdowns, inflation, and the American dream. Investopedia says that the American dream now costs $4.4 million. Reuters reports that U.S. inflation adjusted income rose in 2023 while poverty rates edged up. I mean, people are still in poverty. Some inflation data seems to have been adjusted, but many question this data, saying that inflation is declining. This is all while a government shutdown looms as Congress returns with just 3 weeks to avoid it, according to NBC News. Such topics were rarely mentioned in the debate. The fact that many businesses are having a hard time keeping up with paying higher wages also has made headlines. Folks, the story is still developing because wages, shutdowns, inflations, and the American dream are at the top of the people's list. They want to know what's going on. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigating your story just to keep people informed. Well, folks, if you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio. Buy something in the store, show us some support. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week. Look through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning into The Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.